Oklahoma traveling to Tuscaloosa, Week 12 pivotal SEC matchup here, friends. Big time game, big time moment for both of these teams. You think back to last year. In this matchup, Alabama had everything in front of them. All they had to do was go into Norman, beat an Oklahoma team that really at that point felt all but defeated. It felt like there was really nothing left of Oklahoma. They were quite honestly a shell of themselves. Alabama came out, got physically dominated. I understand the officiating was absolutely woeful in that game, and that's just been the norm with SEC officiating in general, to be quite honest with you. But that really didn't hurt Alabama all that much, in my opinion, in the grand scheme. I thought they just came out completely lethargic. One of the worst performances I've seen out of a Kalen DeBoer team, not only at Alabama, but even in his time at Washington. It was just a complete letdown across the board for Alabama, and that really kind of derailed the season. That was really the dagger in them for the rest of the year, and it felt like they just never got back up from that one. For Oklahoma, it was really just a consolation win to build a little bit of momentum, but this year we get a very eerily similar picture. Alabama, everything in front of them. Yet again, the Tide 8-1, 6-0 in the SEC, getting very close to securing and locking up a spot in Atlanta in the SEC championship game. However, Oklahoma's not out of the mix yet. The Sooners also have everything in front of them. They can very well find themselves in Atlanta. It's going to take a lot. They're going to have to get some help. But the first thing they can control and the first thing they can do in controlling that is going into Tuscaloosa and beating a really good Alabama team. So let's start with that. How exactly does Oklahoma do that? Well, first, it's the number one defense in terms of points per game in the SEC. It's the number one defense in terms of yards per game in the SEC. We know Venables apostrophe S at the end. We know his forte. We understand this defense is physical. They're fast guys like R. Mason Thomas. They have studs in the secondary. Their corners have played extremely well. Look, I think this defense is going to get stops. The biggest question for me with this defense is, can they stop the run, which I think they can. Jam Miller started to get some, I guess, momentum going. I think that Alabama run game has started to find some chemistry and cohesion a little bit more as the season's gone on. Ryan Grubb has schemed that offense into different looks and found ways to get the ground game complementing the pass game. But the biggest thing is forcing turnovers. Ty Simpson's only thrown one interception this year. This is an Alabama team that is good at, really very good at two big things. One is third down. All right, Alabama is, if I'm not mistaken, number 11 in the country in third down conversion percentage, guys, 47.6%. So nearly just south of 50% on third down. Best for 11th, or good for 11th in the country. Probably one of the best in the SEC. And Alabama has been really stout on third downs. You look back at that Georgia game. One of the big reasons they were able to win that game was how effective they were on third down. So for Oklahoma, it's getting off the field on third down, and you got to force some turnovers. You got to take the crowd out of this game. You got to find a way to force turnovers with your dominant defense that Venables has. I think we're going to see a lot of blitzes, a lot of stunts from that defensive line. They're going to try to show Ty Simpson looks that he's not used to seeing. They're going to have to find ways because Tennessee put a bit of a blueprint together as to how to move the ball methodically down the field on you. Now, again, Oklahoma won that game, but those are really the two keys for that Oklahoma defense. I think that's going to help them, again, take the crowd out of this thing, give their offense a chance. Now, when we talk about offense, man, this is an offense that needs more than a chance. They need a jolt of energy, and it starts in the run game. My goodness, guys, they have to be able to run the ball. That's been the kryptonite of this team. I love Torrey Blaylock, and John Mateer's legs has been a huge factor. And I think about Alabama's struggles against dual threat quarterbacks. They're going to key this. Kane Womack and that Alabama defense will absolutely key John Mateer's legs. They're going to be very, very disciplined on the edges. They're not going to crack down too hard. I think they're going to know the read options are coming. They know Oklahoma's an RPO-heavy offense with Arbuckle calling the plays. So John Mateer's legs, albeit can be a factor, and I think are quite honestly going to need to be, Alabama's not going to die by that. They're going to be ready for that. They're going to have a spy on him most of the game. They're not going to let him create too much with his legs. So what does that do in the designed run game? They have to scheme to run the football. That's the big thing. As for those receivers and that offensive line, the receivers have to get open. Satania and Burks, those two guys are going to have to be big this game. Mateer's got to be smart with the football. You cannot force anything against this Alabama defense. On the road, the worst thing you can do is turn the ball over. When you're an offense that already struggles to find consistency and move the ball down the field, right? Sustain drives, chew clock, keep your defense off the field long enough to catch their breath and maybe get a swig of water. The last thing you can do is turn the football right back over. So for Oklahoma, scheme the run game. Find ways to be creative. Find ways to get Burks and Satania going out of the backfield. Maybe some motion jet sweeps. Maybe some orbit screens with a double pass. Just any kind of creativity that Arbuckle can find and any kind of grit that offensive line can find is going to be huge for Oklahoma. Don't turn the ball over. Stay ahead of the chains. All right, guys. 4.0 yards per rush, 81st in the country. That's got to be better. I don't know how. I don't care how. It's got to be better. Only 5.1 yards per play on average all season. 91st in the country. It's been a very lethargic offense. They're going to have to find something special in this football game. That defense can absolutely give them a jolt. Now, let's talk about Alabama. What do the Tide have to do? So let's start with the offense, because we already mentioned that Alabama does not turn the ball over very much. In terms of interception thrown percentage on the season, they're second best in the country, 0.3%. That's good for one interception from Ty Simpson, 21 touchdowns. He has been stellar this year. He's only gotten better as the season's gone on. We know Ryan Williams. We know Jeremy Bernard. We know Horton. We know Cuevas. So many weapons on this Alabama offense, but you're playing a very, very, very good defense that is aggressive. So how can you attack that aggression? I think it's the deep ball. It's finding Oklahoma, maybe getting confused, maybe the noise. I guess if you're on defense, the noise isn't necessarily a factor. They're going to be quiet for the offense, but you get what I'm saying. All right, maybe the pressure of the moment. I think if Alabama can run with a little bit of tempo, if they can tire and wear that defense down, mistakes happen. If they catch Oklahoma in some all-out blitzes, maybe some cover zero looks, you have the speed to beat them deep. I think the screen game with Jam Miller is going to be extremely effective to complement the run game. Something I'm curious to see. Does Alabama come out and try to loosen the box up? This is a really tough defense to run the ball against. So I'm curious to see what the game plan is from from Ryan Grubb and that Alabama offense in terms of maybe giving themselves a numbers advantage, or at least even numbers in the box to find some breathing room in the run game. Maybe take a little bit of pressure off of Ty Simpson's shoulders. Curious to see how that goes. As for Alabama and Kane Womack's defense, the biggest thing is Mateer. You cannot let him create off-platform, off-script plays and hurt you. Again, we saw how Gus Malzahn, all the way back to week 1, Alabama's only loss of the year. Again, that one now seems more and more like just a small, minute little dot on the schedule, because we've seen how Alabama's grown and, of course, gotten a lot better. Florida State obviously has gone the opposite direction. But nonetheless, Gus Malzahn's game plan in that game was heavily predicated on Tommy Castellano's threat with his legs. A lot of pre-snap motion, a lot of RPOs, a lot of options, 1, 2, and 3 options on each play, whether it be a handoff, some kind of a run-pass option iteration, anything along those lines. That's going to be the case in this game. And Alabama has to be disciplined. They cannot let Mateer run. If they can keep Mateer closed in, they keep Blaylock in that run game, really do even what Oklahoma's consistently been, only 141 rush yards per game. I think if Alabama keeps them at that, maybe forces a turnover or two, that Alabama offense will inevitably find a way to score. I think field position is going to be a big thing in this game. And then you think about home crowd advantage. Obviously, that plays a huge role in it as well. For Alabama, man, like I mentioned, third down's been great. Defensively, they're 12th in the country in points per game. So this is a very good unit that Kane Womack puts on the field as well. So a lot of the shine on defense is going to go towards Oklahoma. I think the broadcast will probably mention that a lot, but let's not forget Alabama has a very good defense too, but Alabama's offense has continued to click. So curious to see what they do against the number 1 defense in the SEC in not necessarily a must-win game for the Tide, but a must-win game for the Sooners. Now, that's enough for the preview. Let's get to the prediction here. Let's start with the line. Alabama favored -5.5 at home. Does not surprise me. I think this line's going to move. I'm recording this on a Monday. I'm sure, and this is per FanDuel, just if you were curious. I think this line is going to move a bit. I like where it's at. I really do. I think Oklahoma's going to play inspired. They know this is a backs against the wall, must-win kind of football game. If there's any sliver of hope to make it to Atlanta, and they're still very much in the picture of the playoff race, they have to win this game. If they lose this, playoffs are gone, in my honest opinion. There's still a slim chance. We'll see how the ACC unfolds and Group of 5 and whatever else happens in the playoff picture. But in terms of this game that we're talking about right now, I think for Oklahoma and Brent Venables, this is a must-win game. It's obviously a do-or-die situation that's only multiplied in terms of difficulty level, being in Tuscaloosa against an Alabama team that has continued to roll. But the biggest thing is the mental side of this. Can you catch them? Last year, you caught them in a very vulnerable state where it felt like Alabama was cruising maybe a little bit. They thought they had revived their season. They thought they were going to finish it off strong and find their way in Atlanta. Obviously, you catch them, you trip them, you beat them at home, physically dominated them, outcoached them, outplayed them. So what does it look like now going on the road in Tuscaloosa against a team that I think is going to be a lot more aware, obviously knowing what happened last year, and a team that's continued to look better and better each week, while Oklahoma has been a little bit up and down. It's been very topsy-turvy, 7-2, nothing to scoff at. As for Alabama, I believe they come prepared. I think they're ready to go. My prediction is that the Crimson Tide win this game. Not touching the line. I would just take the Alabama money line. I would probably tie that into a parlay. Got some more predictions coming this week, so if you want to throw together a parlay with that one, then by all means, go ahead. But look, I'm taking Alabama. I think that Kalen DeBoer is going to have these guys ready to play. I think the offense may stumble a bit. I think we might see a turnover or two, maybe a bit of a sloppy game, but I think Oklahoma's inability to run the football, at least consistently, they have not done it yet really all year. You take away Mateer's rushing threat and ability, 141.3 rush yards per game, good for 78th in the country out of that Oklahoma offense. Without Mateer being a dual threat quarterback, I mean, my goodness, man, that's probably down to like 80 yards per game rushing. The running back room has to find some productivity. I think they're going to score. I do think Oklahoma will find ways to drive the ball. I think the defense will allow them to get some better field position. We saw an LSU team that was almost just kind of dead to right in an offense that really hasn't had any chemistry at all, find at least a couple glimpses of moving the football last week in Tuscaloosa. I think Oklahoma is a better team than that, so I think it's going to be a close game, very competitive. I feel it's going to be a little sloppy, but I'm taking Alabama to win this game, so that's all I got, friends. I appreciate you for tuning in. Looking forward to this game. Huge pivotal moment in the SEC. We got a lot of these coming up in every conference as we get to the near end of the season. Like I had mentioned, we got some more prediction and preview videos coming as the week rolls on. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will see you in my next video.